Hi, my name is Elizabeth Ciordia, and my presentation today is about a couple articles. One of them is called Family Matters. It's an article about mothers trying to make a change for their kids and for their community. Because of the boom in e-commerce, warehouses have been popping up throughout their neighborhoods and causing so much air pollution. And from the trucks, there's emissions that it's causing illness and just making people sick from breathing in all those emissions. One of the mothers is named Anna Sanchez. She speaks out because her son was born with a birth defect. I guess Loma Linda did a study because several people, like quite a few people, were having kids with the same exact birth defect. So they investigated, and Loma Linda Medical Center determined that these cases with this specific birth defect were all from people who lived in areas with high transportation routes for these warehouses. So the air quality was probably pretty bad. They are speaking out for someone to make a change, because how is it okay for these companies to be doing this if it's making people sick? They believe warehouses and rail yards are causing the air pollution and harming the community, especially like there's kids all over that community. And I agree with them. The economic gain is not more important than public safety. Because there's such a boom in e-commerce, online shopping is now the new normal. So especially with companies like Amazon that will promise to deliver your items the next day or even overnight, like it's crazy. So all these warehouses have popped up throughout the IE, and they're nestled in between little neighborhoods. And unfortunately, it's usually like minority or less fortunate communities. And companies are needing to be held accountable. There needs to be more regulations and policies in order to hold them accountable. That's why it's so important for people to speak up. Even in Moreno Valley, they're also having this issue as well, because there's warehouses popping up throughout all of Moreno Valley. For example, there's like a Target one, Living Spaces, Ross, just to name a few, Skechers. So if our area already has bad air pollution, what's happening with all these new warehouses being added and even more and more trucks coming through and releasing those emissions into our air that we're breathing on a daily basis? I think public safety and health should always take priority over profits or economical advances. And then for the summary, the article explains how many families have moved to the IE because it's more affordable for them to live, and they can build their families there and buy homes. But the cheaper land has also drawn the attention of the logistics industry. The boom in online shopping and imported goods are passing through the Inland Empire on a daily basis. Due to these trucks coming and going throughout the day, the air quality has been affected. The location of the Inland Empire is ideal because it's close to the ports of LA, but also close to the ports in Long Beach. Hussing said, "There's nowhere else to put it if you run a major online retailer. You have to be here." And what he's referring to is the Inland Empire because of that ideal location. The warehouses create many jobs, but in return, the air pollution is horrible. And San Bernardino has the county's worst ozone pollution. There has been an explosion of warehouses and activity in these areas for the last 2 decades. And mothers have been standing up and pushing back against this industry. They argue that the warehouses don't pay enough. Jobs are often seasonal. And even AI is taking over some of these positions inside the warehouse. So they're not even hiring real people. So is it really benefiting the community? The risk is higher having these warehouses there with the public's health. It's putting them at a greater risk. And more studies link health conditions to bad air quality. Teresa Flores Lopez lives in San Bernardino in a neighborhood on the west side. She grew up there. The west side is largely a Latino community, and an analysis by the Union of Concerned Scientists found that Latinos in California compared to white people are exposed to particulate matter pollution that is 40% higher on average. She shows how a park and community center are across the street from a rail yard. Kids are playing there, and then there's this area with high pollution right across the street, and those kids are breathing all that in. Teresa shows the community and explains how she suffered a stroke in her 50s, and several studies have connected air pollution to increased risk for stroke. And 50s is pretty young to have a stroke, so it could have been due to that and her being exposed on a daily basis for years. Teresa and her friend began to discuss the effects with other mothers and created a grassroots group called Westside Residents of Clean Air Now. It took 20 years of advocacy for speaking out and for them to win a victory. Omnitrans was ordered to install a new fueling system that connected directly to the city's natural pipeline. They asked city officials to create alternate routes not in front of community centers, schools, residences. They brought so much change, all because they just kept pushing at it, and they wanted to keep their kids and community healthy. Activists are turning to legal and policy solutions and regulations that will hold warehouses accountable. I agree with for my eval, I agree with the author. I think that economic development should not risk or sacrifice the health of the community. There's scientific evidence of how areas with higher amounts of warehouses tend to have the highest air pollution. Beat Ritz, an epidemiologist at UCLA, studied air pollution and the influence on infant death in California from 1989 to 2000. It showed babies exposed to nitrogen dioxide, which is one of the pollutants in diesel emissions, increased the risk for SIDS. It's interesting that air pollution kills 808 people yearly in the IE, but yet they are allowing that the World Logistics Center to operate and not acknowledge how it's going to make the air pollution and air quality worse than what it is. And that's in Moreno Valley, where they're creating all these warehouses. And even in other parts of the IE, like you're creating more and more warehouses when our air is already bad. What do you think is going to happen? And I think it's really brave and awesome that people are speaking up against it. I think warehouses should be far away from communities or residencies, neighborhoods. They should create an area that is far from people, so they're not breathing it every day. In an article published by Cal Matters in 2024, they mentioned a resident in Wilmington, California, Jose Ulloa, that had been suffering from asthma and many breathing problems, where he was admitted constantly. It was pretty serious, and doctors have linked that the diesel exhaust exposure has been causing these conditions for him with his breathing and asthma. He has been hospitalized for severe asthma attacks. His neighborhood is in a heavy truck traffic area for the ports of LA. And just an example, just recently Tesla was under fire for potential contamination of the water and excessive air pollution and emissions in Austin, Texas. I think warehouses should be held accountable, or they should find different ways that they can operate, because them making money is not more important than these people's lives. I also wanted to talk about Teresa and her friend. They began to discuss the effects that were happening with other mothers, and they created a grassroots group, and it's called the Westside Residents of Clean Air Now. It took 20 years of advocacy and speaking out to win a victory. Omnitrans was ordered to install fueling systems that are connected directly to the natural pipeline. They asked city officials to create alternate routes, not in front of residences, and they brought so much change, all because they wanted to keep their kids healthy in the community. Activists are turning to legal and policy solutions and regulations that will hold warehouses accountable. In conclusion, I believe that high truck traffic areas are causing health problems for the residents and community. These warehouses are more worried about making money rather than looking out for the community. The rise in online shopping and e-commerce has created a demand for logistics centers, but we say enough is enough and recognize the harmful effects that it has on the people around, the community. It's great to see people standing up and speaking out against this, because there is health dangers associated with this. They are pushing for regulations to keep warehouses accountable. Many studies have shown evidence of the harmful effects of poor air quality. We have seen some changes because those activists are not giving up and they're out there advocating for the community. It's exciting to see the changes being made. What will we see in the future? Profits are not more important than human lives. I never realized how many warehouses have popped up in our communities over the last 10 years. We love Amazon, but it's because it's fast, but I never really realized how much they affect our roads and quality of air. And is the convenience worth the cost of our health? Thank you.